Okay, I saved the best. Oh God, for last. The Bachem, right? It's the Natter, BA-34 Natter, right? Which means snake in German. Okay. This, holy crap. Of course, like I said, you had the ME-163, the Comet, right? The rocket-powered, essentially rocket-powered fighter glider. It really was. Right? And of course, there's plenty of YouTube videos about the acid fighter. You get people laughing that many of the pilots died, taking off, getting blown up. But when it was working well, like I said, one guy took out three B-17s. Right? Wow, just too little, too late. But now we start to get to a rocket-powered fighter interceptor. Now I've gone over this in the Tigers, the Luftwaffe 46 Comet, where the story where the women fighters are in the HE-162s. They go to intercept some bombers, but they're beaten to the punch by these Natters. Okay, right, and I could just this right here. It was this vertical takeoff, single seat rocket interceptor intended to get the Luftwaffe weapon, quickly reach the Allied heavy bombers, and shoot them down. It was a semi-expendable machine built of wood and armed the nose mounted a honeycomb battery of spin-stabilized air-to-air rockets or 30mm cannon shells. Right. This ingenious concept proved dangerous. I mean, literally. Okay, let's go in here. Now, the cool cover, right? Well, in fact, we'll just start out here. Of course, the rocket thing. Just real quick. Look, you had, what is this? The rockety, right? The rockety, right? The rocket. Cover of the magazine of the Breslau-based Verein für Raumschifffahrt, Society for Spaceship Travel, from March 15, 1928. Bro, how cool is that? How cool is that? All right. And you see this guy here, they would develop these rockets, model rockets, okay? Now remember, Werner von Braun, right? The great young German rocket engineer, for a proposal for the deployment of rocket-powered Rückstoßjäger reaction fighters as a means of high-speed local aerial defense. So look at that. Let's kind of go. So there's already the vertical takeoff. Okay, these are essentially rockets. So now we go through here. And of course, what could have been, right? Central Germany, the summer of hate, right? Well, the summer of hate in this alternate universe, they're still fighting. And Natter, a recently formed factory defense flight flown by a Luftwaffe volunteer, fired its nose batteries as opposed to the formation of B-17 flying fortresses. Now here's this was what was the idea of it. This was the theory that how this was going to work. Right. The external booster rockets released moving at a speed of between 300 and 600 kilometers an hour, which is pretty damn fast. It would take them seconds to reach the bombers. It would remain airborne for 2 minutes. You had 2 minutes before the nose and cockpit sections separated. The pilot bailed out, parachuting to the ground. Right. You had 2 minutes to essentially release your rockets at the closest bomber. And man, these things would have come apart, getting hit with 30 of these things, like a shotgun of rockets. Like I said, this thing couldn't really stay in air too much. It doesn't even have the wings for it, but. And once again, I just wanted to bring up the idea of the gliders, right? One of the leading glider countries was Germany, right? The idea of the rockets and the gliders being more similar to each other is very interesting, as versus the jet engines or the piston engines, the propeller planes. And you go through here, you get the idea of drawing on a napkin, essentially. The concept of an armed manned rocket. Now, this is your cockpit. It's a very simple thing. Apparently, the whole idea was that most of this was going to be autopiloted. You're going to go up. Your job was to aim as they build they build it out of wood. Now, listen, I'm not going to be smart because I'm very different. I feel for these people. These are my mother's people. And the guts it took. But god damn, man. And the thing is that when you read about when you read about the testing of it, of course, the first test was not even to launch the thing. The first test to see was how this thing was going to stay in air, how it was going to do, and to be dragged behind, essentially, by a plane to see how this thing would fly. It needs to be horizontal at some point in order to fight after being vertical. Here's one being launched. Of course, this is I believe, an unmanned one. They did a lot of unmanned flights with like dummies and none. And unfortunately, even the unmanned flights and the simulations where you had a guy in here being dragged by the plane, every single one had a problem. Okay. And this is the whole idea. The whole idea was we would build, like, these things could be built or moved easily, assembled, and these would be ready to go up to the bombers. There's another one being launched, unmanned. Right. So here's the basic idea. Right? This was I hate to bring up an old cartoon. Does anyone ever remember? I think it was Bugs Bunny. No, it was Woody Woodpecker, the hillbilly guy. And it was, I think, it was the pig, right? He had a pig, and he was home from partying, but he had to sneak into the house because the wife was going to kick his ass if he got caught. And the pig would help him with all kinds of ways to try to get into the house, but they always would fail, and the wife would kick his ass. Well, like, this is the idea, okay? We start, okay? Here comes those damn bombers. All right, we're going Angriff. We're here. You spray that motherfucker, and then, hey, it's like we're coming back from the moon. Of course, here's the weapon system, right? The Gross Rohr Batterie, right? 108. 32 barrels, each loaded with a 30mm cannon shell, right? The ME-262 guys claim that just 3 or 4 of these well-aimed hits with these things was sufficient to shoot down a B-17, right? So this was 30 of them, right? It's like the primitive and the cutting edge jammed together in a very uncomfortable way. That's cool looking, but right, this is the idea of it. The idea of Schussschuss, fan fire, right? Schuss. And a battery of 32 of these things will fire at an angle from below. Yeah, it'll fix your asses. And of course, you see the volatile field. Anyway, to round it out, unfortunately, although everyone's like, most people laugh or think it's good, but this was the first manned pilot here, a Lothar Sieber, right? Lothar the Hill People. Remember that? Interesting. He had a good career, but there was a black mark. He got drunk, right? He actually was demoted, but then he pulled off a pretty interesting commando thing behind enemy lines. He flew a captured B-17. He also helped extract some people behind Soviet lines in the Ukraine, right? So he volunteered, right? He was to become an officer, right? He was already awarded great Iron Cross First Class, right? And the Skorzeny proposed he should be awarded the German Cross and Gold, right? Now, also mentioned is that the people that took real interest in the Natter, right, were the SS. That's why in that comic, when the Natters intercept the bombers and blow them apart, the women pilots are like, oh, the SS beat us to it, because it was pretty much becoming under the purvey of the SS, which to me doesn't mean anything. I read his own words. Right? See what declared, in the course of this war, I have already done riskier things. And so he's willing to be the first test pilot. So here he is before the flight. Right. There he is getting into it. Him climbing into it. Don't fall out the back. Well, needless to say, the rocket shot up, flew out of control, hit the ground. He was dead. He was dead before, so they're thinking that his neck was broken by the rocket boost. I mean, they had already tested the G-forces for a manned was the V1s, and it was too much for a human being. But yeah, they still don't know what happened. They said like one of the hinges broke. They said it was a furniture hinge. You hear all kinds of different things, but needless to say, it's brave man died, and it never went anywhere. So, and of course, the last thing here is they proposed a use of this, the crocus. Right, there was going to be an operational deployment of these Natters, and they were going to put a whole bunch of these things. But and the idea too is that guy was and I'm going to say it straight up. That guy was an experienced, highly experienced combat veteran pilot. Okay, the plan was to have not well trained volunteers get into this and do this, right? And then, of course, the parachute down. Also, the rocket booster was the parachute also. The whole idea was to try to retrieve the pilot and the booster so you could build it into another one. So, how do I feel? I told you, you saw my Divine Wind video. You saw how I felt about that. What the hell is you going to do? Your country's being bombed into the Stone Age by an enemy that just doesn't stop coming. So, desperate times calls for desperate measures, huh? Anyway, all right. Well, fascinating nonetheless. Right. And just one last thing with the last minutes I got here. Once again, man, salute you, man. So many of these guys died just testing these things out. So anyway, I'm sure a lot of people like that fact, but I don't. So who am I?